How you doing? Anthony Ferraro here at Create Sci-Fi. Today I'm going to be making some Sci-Fi Shackles and a Blindfold. I'm working on a new project. I made a chair last week. I'll link to that. So I'm going to do a very basic production. It's going to be on a green screen set with just a chair, a couple actors. It'll be outlined story-wise, but then it'll be improv. But it's very exciting. I'll give you more details about that in future videos. But for now, I'm prepping. So last week was the chair. This week, the shackles, right? So we're going to make these shackles very simple out of EVA foam, right? And then the blindfold. Very sci-fi, very simple, but very exciting, right? I mean, sometimes with basic props like this, I don't know if I would do a tutorial, but in the end, you know, it's all gonna come together and then we'll be able to see these in action in actual production. So this is just 8mm craft foam, EVA foam. I'll link to the materials below. And let me show you how I made this. All right, diving right in, this is mostly craft foam. I got this 8mm craft foam. I'll link to it below. And this is just a great material, this foam. It's very workable. Got to make sure you have a sharp knife. That's probably the most important thing. You don't want ragged edges. So I just keep, you know, some people use like a chef knife sharpener. I use a stone. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut my strip for the shackles. I'm going 2 inches. And then I have this scrap foam. I just want to have a spacer in between the hands just to give it 1, rigidity, and 2, just to add a visual element. So I cut those and, you know, I'm eyeballing everything. So, you know, you cut, you test, you cut, you test. So here, you know, it's starting to come together in my mind. So, you know, before I commit to gluing things, you still want to eyeball it. So I find my center mark. I find when you're eyeballing to work out from the center is the best way to go. So I know the girl's wrists who's going to be wearing this. So the main thing is to make sure they fit. So here I'm adjusting. Again, it's just as you go. So I'm making these a little smaller so that I have more room for her wrists. Always measuring once, twice, 3 times, you know, 4 times, always triple checking. So now I have this other scrap foam just so that it has sort of a different profile to it. And I'm just gonna make these little collar pieces for where I'm going to eventually put Velcro. And this is going to be the, I'm air quoting right here, the locking mechanism. Here I'm doing the old trick with the Dremel tool where you can make rivets. This is a very useful, very effective tool. Costs nothing, and you get rivets in your foam. So now I have this wood burning tool. This is for, you know, wood crafting to burn images. And I'm just making lines. And this, again, is going to give visual interest. It's going to make it look like something that's fabricated. So what I'm doing is I always do inch lines because that's easier. That's the width of the ruler. And then I'm just adding randomness like every other one, just again to make it sort of, to make it, I always talk about this smoke and mirrors where there's enough going on where you're just not thinking about it. That's sort of the goal. So now you take the heat gun and you're gonna seal the foam, and if there is any fuzzy or ragged edges, this will melt those little hairy pieces, and it makes it ready to accept paint. So now I have some hot glue, and I'm going to now commit to the center piece I told you about. And again, you know, everything is eyeballing it, and now I know everything fits, so now I'll go ahead and glue it down. And I'm going to put these end caps on. These are the locking mechanisms. You can see the rivets really good there on the yellow, and that when we paint that, that'll really come out great. So now it's a little ragged on the sides of my centerpiece there, so now I just have this piece of scrap foam, and I'm just going to glue it there, and that just, once it's painted, it'll make it look more like a solid piece. So now I'm going to cut my strip for the blindfold. This I'm going 3 inches, and this has to be a little longer because it's got to wrap around the head. So the first thing I do is to make sure I just get a nice, clean, squared piece to start from. If you start working from a cockamamie screwed up angle, it's going to affect it all the way down the line. So here's the only real cutout in this. This is where the nose is going to come out. So this will be the bridge of the nose and covers the eyes. And again, you know, this is pretty much rinse and repeat, but this part is different. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a tab, And this is going to go into the back of the other piece, and that's going to allow me to adjust it so we can get a nice snug fit on the actor. Because, you know, things are all, you know, maybe the hair will be different. You just don't want to be locked in. You want to be able to have options and be fluid. So here I'm just cutting out this notch where the tab piece is going to go in. Again, you know, I measured this a couple times because you don't want to have to rebuild everything. And here I'm doing that same process. I want to give it the same look as the shackles, so they're almost like a set. For these guys, that's their shackle blindfold set that I guess they all use. So yeah, and then you can see there, you know, when it's in the light, you can see where I'm going with this, right? So again, triple check, it fits, okay. Same thing, heat it up. We want to get rid of the fuzzies, we want to seal it so that it'll accept paint. And this also helps to like soften it and make it look real. So I usually do this with Plastidip, but I was out of that, so I'm just going to use some Mod Podge. I always end up adding a G. It's not Mod Podge, Mod Podge. So I'm going to add some Mod Podge, just a couple coats of this, and this is going to seal the foam. So when I paint it, I have a nice surface. And what I'm doing here, because I'm doing a quick build in this instance, the hairdryer is your friend when you're on a timetable, right? So I dried that first coat. Now I'm adding the second coat, and I'll go ahead and hair dry this again before I add the primer. So the next thing I'm going to do is do a flat black primer as my base coat, and I take that out back and do that. So here I have the core piece now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a dry brush with silver metallic paint. I do want this to have a metallic look, and this is a little more than a dry brush. A dry brush would be just the edges. This I'm doing just a light dusting. I'm just kissing the material, a little tiny bit of paint on the brush, and then that just gives it the highs. And when the light hits it, again, this is not a hero prop. The actor will have it on for a moment, and it'll just read metal, and you know, we want the audience to not think about it. Here I'm taking some rub and buff. I'll use a brush just to get it on all these rivets, just a tiny bit, a tiny bit, almost something that you don't notice. Hit the high points, the edges with my finger, and then now I'm going to seal this all together with a clear coat. Clear coat just helps to keep all of these layers that we're building from becoming mud. And now we're going to weather this, and that's why we did the clear coat. So if this was wet paint on top of wet paint on top of wet paint, then it would just start to get very muddy. This now is putting our weathering, our dirt is on top of that layer, right? So it's not blending with it, it's riding on top of it. And you know, this I just really watered down some acrylic paint, some burnt sienna, a little bit of black, and I really just slather this on here. No rhyme or reason. Then you take a cloth or a paper towel, and then you rub off the majority of it. It'll pool, it'll get into some crevices where you can't get, and the idea is that's mimicking what would happen in real life. And you'll see there, it just, you know, it's subtle, but it's huge. It really brings it to life. And then a final clear coat to seal it all in. So there it all is, it dried. I use the hairdryer and the sun. And now I'm going to add the velcro. The velcro is the final touch. This is how we're going to have everything stay together. I'm going to use super glue with this. So I have strips of velcro. You can use the velcro dots. You know, it's velcro, pretty straightforward. So with this I use super glue, and then I use a kicker. Again, because I'm doing this, I want to do this step, and move. So the kicker just helps me to keep my pace up. So then that's the adjustable piece that slides in there. That'll fit to the actress's head no matter what the hair is or what's going on. The shackles, Velcro, you know, it's pretty sturdy stuff. And let's look at the beauty shots. It's a nice set. That looks like a set, right? That looks like something that has a purpose and it was made together. There's the blindfold alone. Here's the shackles. Yeah, very happy with that. Oh no, I'm blindfolded, I'm shackled. This came out good. Doesn't really fit me though, because I made it for the actress, a very talented young woman. So this is extra size, not big Galook size. So yeah, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Excited to be sharing sort of the journey into this next project. So we'll probably do a couple more tutorials. We'll probably do it behind the scenes, and then we'll actually do the show. For now, right now, it's titled The Zenith Run. I'm excited about it. Well, as always, I hope you found this video useful. Please like, share, subscribe. Be sure to subscribe so you can see the upcoming content. Leave a comment. I love to read the comments. And be sure to check out the merch shop. We got the hats, we got t-shirts. Buying those really helps the channel. And remember, I'm just here to help make sci-fi.